The galaxy was a tapestry of countless species, each weaving their own thread into the grand design of the Galactic Council. For millennia, the Council had been the arbiter of peace, trade, and conflict among the stars. Humanity, the newest member, was an enigma. They were neither the most advanced nor the most powerful, but they were patient, painfully so. While other species postured and schemed, humanity endured. They absorbed insults, tolerated slights, and even forgave transgressions that would have sparked wars among others. To the galaxy, they were the eternal peacekeepers, the species that would always turn the other cheek. But beneath that calm exterior lay a truth no one had yet grasped. Humanity's patience was not infinite. The Galactic Council chamber was a marvel of engineering, a vast dome where representatives of 100 species gathered to debate the fate of the cosmos. Today, the air was thick with tension. The KRYLL, a militaristic species known for their arrogance and brutality, had been expanding their territory unchecked. Their latest target was a human colony on the edge of explored space. The KRYLL ambassador, a towering figure with chitinous armor and cold black eyes, dismissed the concerns of the council with a wave of his clawed hand. "The humans will do nothing," he sneered. "They are weak. They will accept their losses and move on, as they always do." The human ambassador, a middle-aged woman with sharp features and a calm demeanor, stood silently. Her name was Dr. Elena Reyes, and she had spent her career advocating for peace. But today, her usual composure was strained. The KRYLL had crossed a line. Reports had come in from the colony of New Horizon. The KRYLL had launched an unprovoked attack, reducing the settlement to ash. Thousands of lives had been lost, men, women, and children who had sought nothing more than to build a future among the stars. The Council, as always, was slow to act. Some species sympathized with humanity, but others saw the attack as a minor skirmish, unworthy of their attention. Dr. Reyes stepped forward, her voice steady but carrying an edge that few had heard before. "The KRYLL have attacked our people. They have slaughtered innocents. We have tolerated much in the name of peace, but this is unforgivable." The chamber fell silent. For the first time, the galaxy saw something in humanity that they had never seen before: anger. The KRYLL ambassador laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "What will you do, human? Beg for mercy? Plead for justice? You are nothing. Your species is nothing." Dr. Reyes did not respond immediately. She turned to the council, her gaze sweeping across the assembled representatives. "We have always believed in the power of diplomacy. We have always sought to resolve conflicts through dialogue, not violence. But there comes a time when even the most patient among us must say, 'Enough.'" She paused, letting her words sink in. "The KRYLL have made a grave mistake. They have underestimated us. They believe that because we value peace, we are incapable of war. They are wrong." The chamber erupted into murmurs. Some species were intrigued, others alarmed. The KRYLL ambassador scoffed. "Empty words. Your kind will do nothing, as always." Dr. Reyes fixed him with a cold stare. "You will learn the cost of your arrogance. Humanity does not forget, and we do not forgive." With that, she turned and left the chamber, leaving the galaxy to wonder what she meant. Back on Earth, the news of the attack spread like wildfire. The people were outraged. For years, they had endured the slights and insults of the galaxy, always turning the other cheek in the name of peace. But this was different. This was not just an insult. It was an atrocity. Protests erupted in cities across the planet, demanding action. The leaders of Earth convened in an emergency session, their faces grim. The time for patience was over. In the days that followed, humanity mobilized with a speed and efficiency that stunned the galaxy. Ships that had been mothballed were brought back into service. Factories that had produced consumer goods shifted to manufacturing weapons and armor. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, developing new technologies to give humanity an edge. The KRYLL had expected humanity to cower, to beg for mercy. Instead, they found a species united in purpose, ready to fight. The Galactic Council watched in disbelief as humanity prepared for war. Some species offered support, while others remained neutral, unwilling to risk the KRYL's wrath. The KRYL themselves were dismissive, confident in their superiority. They had faced countless enemies before and crushed them all. Humanity, they believed, would be no different. But they were wrong. Humanity was not like the others. They had endured, they had waited, and now their patience had finally snapped. The galaxy would soon learn what it meant to push humanity too far. The destruction of New Horizon was a spark that ignited a firestorm across human space. For years, humanity had been the galaxy's pacifists, the species that turned the other cheek no matter the provocation. But the KRYL had gone too far. The images of the burning colony, the bodies of the innocent, and the smug dismissal of the KRYL ambassador had shattered the illusion of humanity's endless patience. The galaxy had always seen humans as weak, as a species that would rather talk than fight. Now they would see the truth. Humanity was not weak. They had simply been waiting. On Earth, the mood was one of grim determination. The leaders of humanity's nations, once divided by petty squabbles, now stood united. Emergency broadcasts filled the airwaves, calling for volunteers, for resources, for unity. The response was overwhelming. Millions signed up to fight, while others worked tirelessly to support the war effort. Factories that had once produced consumer goods now churned out weapons, ships, and armor. Scientists and engineers, long accustomed to working on projects for the betterment of society, now focused their efforts on creating tools of war. Humanity was not a species built for conflict, but they were a species built for survival. And now, survival meant war. The Galactic Council watched in stunned silence as humanity mobilized. The KRYL, confident in their superiority, dismissed the preparations as the desperate flailing of a doomed species. They had faced countless enemies before, each one crushed beneath the weight of their military might. Humanity, they believed, would be no different. But the KRYL had made a fatal error. They had underestimated humanity's ingenuity. While the KRYL relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers, humanity relied on strategy, adaptability, and innovation. They had spent centuries perfecting the art of turning weakness into strength, and now they would use that knowledge to devastating effect. Humanity's first move was to secure their borders. Fleets of ships, hastily assembled but bristling with advanced weaponry, were deployed to protect key colonies and trade routes. The KRYL, expecting little resistance, were caught off guard by the ferocity of humanity's defense. Skirmishes broke out along the frontier, each one a test of humanity's resolve. The KRYL quickly learned that humanity was not the pushover they had assumed. Human pilots, though inexperienced, fought with tenacity that unnerved their enemies. Their ships, though outnumbered, were equipped with cutting-edge technology that gave them an edge in battle. The KRYL's initial advances were halted, their momentum stalled. As the war effort gained traction, humanity's leaders turned their attention to the broader galactic stage. They knew that they could not win this war alone. The KRYL were a formidable enemy, and humanity would need allies if they would prevail. Diplomats were dispatched to the Galactic Council, not to beg for help, but to demand it. The message was clear. The KRYL's aggression was a threat to all. If the Council did not act, humanity would, and the galaxy would see what happened when a species with nothing left to lose took matters into its own hands. The response was mixed. Some species, long oppressed by the KRYL, saw an opportunity to strike back and pledge their support. Others, wary of provoking the KRYL, remained neutral. A few even sided with the KRYL, either out of fear or misguided belief in their invincibility. But humanity did not waver. They had made their decision, and they would see it through to the end. The KRYL had awakened a sleeping giant, and now that giant was on the move. Behind the scenes, humanity's scientists and engineers were working on a secret project, one that could turn the tide of the war. The KRYL's greatest strength was their fleet, a massive armada that had crushed countless enemies. Humanity's fleet, though growing, was still no match for the KRYL's numbers. But what humanity lacked in quantity, they made up for in creativity. Using advanced AI and stealth technology, they developed a new class of ship, one that could strike without warning and disappear before the enemy could respond. These ships, known as Phantoms, were designed to hit the KRYLO were hurt most. Their supply lines, their infrastructure, their morale. The first deployment of the Phantoms was a resounding success. A KRYLO supply depot, heavily fortified and thought to be impregnable, was reduced to rubble in a matter of minutes. The KRYLO, unable to detect the attackers, were left scrambling to respond. Similar attacks followed, each one more devastating than the last. The KRYLO's confidence began to waver. They had expected humanity to fight a conventional war, one they could easily win. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that refused to play by the rules. As the war dragged on, the galaxy began to take notice. The KRYLO, once seen as invincible, were now on the defensive. Humanity, once seen as weak, was now a force to be reckoned with. The Galactic Council, long dismissive of humanity's concerns, began to reconsider their stance. The KRYLO's aggression was a threat to all, and humanity's resistance was a beacon of hope for those who had suffered under their rule. The tide was turning, and the galaxy would never be the same. But for humanity, the war was far from over. The KRYLO had struck a blow that could not be forgiven, and humanity would not rest until justice was served. The galaxy had underestimated them once, but they would not make that mistake again. Humanity's patience had finally snapped, and now they would show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. The KRYLO had awakened a sleeping giant, and now that giant was on the march. The galaxy would soon learn the cost of underestimating humanity. The galaxy held its breath as humanity's fleet surged toward KRYLO space. The Phantoms had already proven their worth, striking deep into enemy territory and sowing chaos among the KRYLO's ranks. But now the real test began. Humanity was no longer content with defensive skirmishes or hit-and-run tactics. They were taking the fight to the KRYLO, and the galaxy watched in awe as the once dominant species found themselves on the back foot. The first major engagement came at the Battle of Kryll Prime, a key system in the KRYLO's empire. The KRYLO had fortified the system with a massive fleet, confident that their superior numbers would crush any attacker. But humanity had learned from their earlier encounters. They knew the KRYLO's tactics, their weaknesses, and their overconfidence. The human fleet, though smaller, was a finely tuned instrument of war. Every ship, every pilot, every weapon had been optimized for this moment. The KRYLO expected a straightforward battle, but what they got was a masterclass in strategy and innovation. The battle began with a feint. A small contingent of human ships engaged the KRYLO fleet, drawing them into a trap. As the KRYLO pursued, they found themselves surrounded by a web of mines and automated drones, each one designed to disrupt their formations and sow confusion. The KRYLO's fleet, once a cohesive force, was now scattered and vulnerable. That was when the Phantoms struck. Emerging from stealth, they targeted the KRYLO's command ships, decapitating their leadership and leaving the rest of the fleet in disarray. The KRYLO, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies with brute force, were unprepared for the precision and coordination of humanity's attack. By the time the dust settled, the KRYLO fleet was in ruins, and humanity had secured their first major victory. The news of the Battle of Kryll Prime sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The KRYLO, once seen as invincible, had been humbled. Humanity, once dismissed as weak, had proven themselves to be a formidable force. The Galactic Council, which had been hesitant to take sides, now began to reconsider. The KRYLO's aggression was a threat to all, and humanity's resistance was a beacon of hope for those who had suffered under their rule. But humanity was not fighting for the approval of the Council. They were fighting for justice, for the lives lost on New Horizon, and for the future of their species. As the war progressed, humanity's tactics evolved. They avoided direct confrontations whenever possible, instead focusing on crippling the KRYLO's infrastructure and supply lines. The Phantoms continued to play a key role, striking at key targets and disappearing before the KRYLO could respond. But humanity's greatest weapon was their adaptability. They learned from every battle, every encounter, and used that knowledge to refine their strategies. The KRYLO, by contrast, were slow to adapt. They relied on the same tactics that had served them for centuries, tactics that were now proving ineffective against an enemy as unpredictable as humanity. The KRYLO's morale began to crumble. They had always believed in their own superiority. But now, that belief was being challenged at every turn. Their fleets were being outmaneuvered, their colonies were under siege, and their leaders were being hunted. The once proud species was now on the defensive, scrambling to hold on to what little they had left. But humanity was relentless. They had made a promise to themselves and to the galaxy. The KRYLL would pay for what they had done. One by one, the KRYL strongholds fell. Humanity's fleet, now bolstered by allies who had once been too afraid to act, swept through KRYL space like a storm. The KRYL's homeworld, once thought to be impregnable, was now within reach. The final battle was inevitable, and both sides knew it. The KRYL, desperate and cornered, prepared for a last stand. They gathered their remaining forces, determined to defend their home at all costs. But humanity was not deterred. They had come too far, sacrificed too much, to turn back now. As the human fleet approached the KRYL homeworld, the galaxy watched in silence. This was not just a battle between two species. It was a turning point in galactic history. The KRYL had ruled through fear and intimidation, but humanity had shown that there was another way. They had shown that even the smallest, most patient species could rise up and defy the odds. The KRYL had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price. The battle for the KRYL homeworld was fierce, but humanity's victory was never in doubt. The KRYL, though determined, were outmatched. Their fleets were destroyed, their defenses breached, and their leaders captured. The war was over, and humanity had emerged victorious. But this was not a victory born of conquest or domination. It was a victory born of necessity, of a species pushed to the brink and forced to fight for its survival. As the dust settled, the galaxy began to take stock of what had happened. The KRYL, once the dominant power, were now a shadow of their former selves. Humanity, once dismissed as weak, had proven themselves to be a force to be reckoned with. The Galactic Council, which had once been hesitant to act, now looked to humanity as a leader. But humanity was not interested in ruling the galaxy. They had fought for justice, for the lives lost on New Horizon, and for the future of their species. And now, they would ensure that no species would ever forget the moment humanity's patience finally snapped. The fall of the KRYL homeworld marked the end of an era. The once mighty empire, built on fear and conquest, lay in ruins. Humanity's victory was not just a military triumph. It was a statement to the galaxy. The species that had been dismissed as weak, as passive, had proven that they were anything but. The KRYL had pushed humanity too far, and now they would bear the consequences. But as the dust settled and the fires of war began to fade, humanity faced a new challenge. What came next? The Galactic Council, once hesitant to act, now looked to humanity as a leader. The KRL's defeat had left a power vacuum, and the galaxy was in turmoil. Some species saw an opportunity to seize power, while others feared that humanity would simply replace the KRL as the dominant force. But humanity had no interest in ruling the galaxy. They had fought not for conquest, but for justice. The lives lost on New Horizon, the innocent slaughtered by the KRL, had been avenged. Now, humanity's focus shifted to ensuring that such a tragedy would never happen again. The first step was to dismantle the KRL's war machine. Their fleets were confiscated, their weapons destroyed, and their leaders brought to justice. The KRYL homeworld, once a symbol of their power, was placed under strict supervision. But humanity did not seek to punish the KRYL people. They understood that the actions of a few should not condemn an entire species. Instead, they offered the KRYL a chance to rebuild, to learn from their mistakes, and become a peaceful member of the galactic community. It was a gesture of mercy, one that few had expected from a species that had just waged a brutal war. The galaxy watched in awe as humanity extended a hand to their former enemies. The KRYL, humbled and broken, accepted the offer. They had seen the cost of their arrogance, and now they were willing to change. But humanity's work was far from over. The war had exposed the flaws in the Galactic Council, its inability to act in the face of injustice. Humanity knew that if the galaxy was to avoid another conflict, the Council would need to be reformed. Humanity's diplomats went to work, advocating for a new system of governance, one that prioritized cooperation over competition. They proposed a series of reforms, including stronger protections for smaller species, a more transparent decision-making process, and a standing peacekeeping force to prevent future conflicts. The proposals were met with resistance from some of the more powerful species, but humanity's newfound reputation gave them leverage. They had proven that they were willing to fight for what they believed in, and now they were willing to fight for the galaxy. The reforms were eventually adopted, and the Galactic Council emerged stronger than ever. Humanity's role in the process earned them the respect and admiration of the galaxy. But they did not seek to dominate the Council or impose their will on others. Instead, they worked to ensure that every species had a voice, that no one would be ignored or overlooked as they had been. The galaxy began to heal, and humanity's vision of a more just and equitable future started to take shape. But even as they worked to build a better galaxy, humanity did not forget the lessons of the war. They knew that their victory had come at a cost, that the lives lost on New Horizon and the battles that followed could never be replaced. They also knew that their patience, once seen as a weakness, had been their greatest strength. It had allowed them to endure, to bide their time, and to strike when the moment was right. But they also knew that patience had its limits, that there were lines that could not be crossed. The war had changed humanity, but it had not hardened them. They remained a species that valued peace, that sought to resolve conflicts through dialogue rather than violence. But they also knew that there were times when words were not enough, when action was necessary. The galaxy had learned that lesson as well. No species would ever forget the moment humanity's patience finally snapped, the moment they rose up and defied the odds. As the years passed, the war became a distant memory, but its legacy endured. The galaxy was a safer, more just place, and humanity had played a key role in making that happen. They had shown that even the smallest, most patient species could make a difference. That strength was not just about power, but about resilience, ingenuity, and the willingness to stand up for what was right. But humanity did not rest on their laurels. They knew that the galaxy was a vast and unpredictable place, that new challenges would arise. But they also knew that they were ready to face those challenges, that they had proven themselves capable of overcoming even the greatest odds. The KRYLL had underestimated them, and the galaxy had learned from that mistake. No species would ever forget the moment humanity's patience finally snapped, and no species would ever make the mistake of underestimating them again. In the end, humanity's victory was not just a triumph of arms, but a triumph of spirit. They had shown that even in the face of overwhelming odds, even when pushed to the brink, they could rise up and fight for what they believed in. They had shown that patience, when combined with determination and ingenuity, could be a powerful force. And they had shown that no matter how dark the galaxy might seem, there was always hope. The galaxy would never forget the moment humanity's patience finally snapped. And neither would humanity. It was a reminder of what they were capable of the strength they had within them. It was a reminder that they were not just a species of peace, but a species of resilience, of courage, and of hope. And as they looked to the future, they knew that they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The galaxy had changed, and so had they. But one thing remained the same: humanity's determination to build a better future for themselves and for the galaxy.